The news across the country. I am Olushayo Babasinde. Governor Yetola attacks women on role assertion. Ebonyi APC rejects court judgment over sack of Umuahi. Bojo State government pledges to marry off repentant commercial sex workers. Suspected herdsmen kill 7 in Taraba reprisal attacks. Now the news in full. The governor of the state of Osun, Mr. Adegboyega Oyetola, has charged Nigerian women to assert their roles as critical stakeholders in the political space towards strengthening democracy and further enrich good governance. Governor Oyetola gave this advice at this year's International Women's Day and the launch of the state gender equity and social inclusion policy in Osogbo. Adebare Ejimakide was there for OSBC News. We shall bring you the report in the course of the bulletin. Meanwhile, the government of the state of Osun has promised to continue to support women to be the best they can be and to realize their potentials. This is contained in a congratulatory message by the government to women in Osun and across the nation on the occasion of the commemoration of the 2022 International Women's Day. Speaking on behalf of the state government, the Commissioner for Information and Civic Orientation, Mrs. Funke Egbemode, lauded Governor Adegboyega Oyetola for according women in the state the necessary support towards actualizing their dreams in every sector and area of life. Mrs. Egbemode, who described the governor as one who has consistently broken gender bias in the state, also said Osun was fast becoming a model for women emancipation and development across many sectors. In a statement made available to newsmen to commemorate this year's International Women's Day celebration, Mrs. Egbemode charged women to keep faith with the administration of Governor Oyetola, adding that the governor is committed to making more opportunities available to the women folk. In the meantime, as the world celebrates International Women's Day, Osun State Chapter of the Nigerian Association of Women Journalists, NAWOJ, is adding its voice by calling on governments, the legislative, judiciary, employers, society, family, and men to support the women by breaking the bias means negative claim, standards, and limits set against women. Are released by the chairperson NAWOJ, Osun, Mrs. Motunrayo Ayegbayo, and the secretary, Kamrida Bisola Aruwodola, indicates that success is everyone's right, stressing that the association is against gender bias, discrimination, and stereotyping against women at work, in government, homes, and in the society. The release said that International Women's Day of every 8th of March celebrates the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. The day also marks a call to action for accelerating women's equity and equality. It added that this year's theme, Break the Bias, make a difference little by little, and be better in our challenge to grow and make a difference. We now bring you the reports from the celebration of International Women's Day and the launch of the State Gender Equity and Social Inclusion Policy in Osogbo, the Osun State capital, where Governor Oyetola charged women to assert their roles as critical stakeholders in the political space towards strengthening democracy and further enrich good governance. Adebare Ejimakide is now set for the report.
Speaking on this year's theme for the International Women's Day, titled Break the Bias, Governor Adegboyega Oyetola said Nigerians are inspired by emphasis placed on the importance of providing opportunities for women to express themselves within the political space, while advocating the need to entrust them with position of authority for them to deploy their innate passion and expertise for good governance. He called on his male counterpart to jettison bias that have consistently hindered the interest and participation of women in the growth of democracy. The state MSWA, who was represented by his deputy, Mr. Benedict Alabi, declared the commitment of his administration to ensure that a new and better day breaks forth in the quest to create more opportunities for women and all the peoples as a way of strengthening democracy and enhance good governance in Osun.
Policy is another bold step by our administration to mainstream the valuable values of our women in societal development, while also protecting them.
Addressing the mammoth crowd at the venue, the First Lady and wife of the State Governor of Osun, Mrs. Kafayat Oyetola, said the International Women's Day is a significant day set aside by nations to bring awareness to the need for eradication of gender bias, foster gender equality, and bring about better society. She expressed optimism that the launching of the state gender equality and social inclusion policy through its inclusiveness would boost the development index of the state in an unprecedented manner. Speaker, Osun State House of Assembly, Honorable Timothy Oweye, who described women as the builders of the society, submitted to the call for more inclusion of women in governance, while reiterating the commitment of the House to breaking bias, inequality, and discrimination against female. In her address, the Commissioner for Children, Women and Social Affairs, Barrister Olubukola Olabo, emphasized the significance of women, adding that the policy will help to break bias against women for them to assume their rightful position in the schemes of growth and development. In their separate lectures on overcoming the traditional bias and women's engagement in political and electoral process, the wife of the former governor of Oyo State, Mrs. Florence Ajimobi, and Professor Siyon Oyeweso, said women can only break the bias against their development by remaining united while advocating increase in the percentage of women in political administration of the state. Other speakers, Dr. Costley Aderigbe and Dr. Temiloluwa Musaya, and the policy facilitator, Professor Aina, also called for involvement of women in political participation and the need to stay healthy towards attaining defeat. In attendance were state ESCO members and members of the House of Assembly, among other eminent personalities. Atebare Ijimakide, OSBC News.
In the meantime, the Nasarawa State First Lady, Mrs. Sule Fat Sule, has berated the National Assembly for rejecting the gender-related bills which were meant to protect the interests of the female gender in the country. This was disclosed to the newsman by the First Lady's Special Assistant on Media, Mr. Lamino Ishak, to mark the 2022 International Women's Day celebration. According to a report, Mr. Sule said the rejection of the gender bills by members of the National Assembly was an indication that they do not value the contributions of Nigerian women to the progress of the nation. She said if the National Assembly had passed the gender bills, it would have ended the barriers that millions of Nigerian women face on the basis of their gender. She appeals to members of the National Assembly to revisit the gender bills and do everything within their power to ensure that it is passed so that Nigerian women will have a sense of belonging. Omoba Dotun Babayemi has been declared the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party, having polled 1,781 votes to defeat other four contestants in a factional congress held in Osogbo, the Osun State capital. Declaring Omoba Babayemi as the winner at the factional congress held at Brookdale Center in Osogbo, the returning officer, Prince Adelani Ajanaku, noted that 1,907 voters were accredited, with 1,880 valid votes recorded and 27 voided votes recorded. According to him, Prince Sanya Omiri polled 16 votes, Dr. Aki Ogunbiyi 23 votes, Alhaji Fatai Akimbade 28 votes, and Mr. Adeleke had 32 votes. In his acceptance speech, Omoba Dotun Babayemi appreciated the support of all for him, which led to his emergence as the Osun PDP governorship flag bearer. He implored them to further support him in the governorship election, promising not to let the people of Osun State down. Our frontline traditionalist, the Araba Ugboni Agbaye, Dr. Tunde Aberefa, has commended the management of Osun State Broadcasting Corporation for promoting the rich Yoruba culture in news and programs of the corporation. Araba Aberefa gave the commendation during a courtesy call on the Director General OSBC, Mr. Rashid Folaromi. The traditionalist who berated killing for rituals explained that a true traditionalist will not engage in such act as it is against their callings. He, however, called on government at all levels to include Ifa in the education syllabus so that no one will be deceived by devilish people who use spirits to command bloody wealth. Representative of the Director General OSBC, including Mr. Olushola Bolaji, Mrs. Bosse Bamiboye, Mrs. Abimbola Babatunde, Kiola Owolabi, and Debade Poju, appreciated Dr. Tunde Aberefa for always contributing on programs that will promote the Yoruba cultural heritage. He pledged that the management of OSBC will not derail from encouraging people to learn and become aware of the beauty of the Yoruba cultural heritage. The AIL's Governing Council of the Osun State College of Technology SLK has been employed to uplift the standard of education and enrich knowledge. This came to fore at a 3-day retreat organized at the institution. The report is presented from our studio.
The Governing Council Chairman, College of Technology SLK, Honorable Akintunde Adegboye, in his opening address, welcomed the Commissioner for Education in the state, Honorable Oladoyin Folorunso. He also welcomed his members and the management of Oscotech to the retreat. He implored the 8th Governing Council of Oscotech SLK to imbibe knowledge so as to aid their performance and contribution to uplift the college, adding that the 3 days retreat would greatly enrich and add more knowledge to them. He appreciates the governor of the state, Mr. Adegboye Oyetola, for appointing them as member of 8th Governing Council of the College of Technology. He appreciated the Commissioner for Education, Honorable Folorunso Oladoyin, and promised that they will work with the government to improve the education sector in the state.
I purposely was appointed to see to the greatness of this college. No doubt it's great, but we want more greatness.
The Commissioner for Education in the state, Honorable Folorunso Oladoyin, in his keynote address, congratulated the chairman and members of the Governing Council of the college on their appointment by the governor of the state, Mr. Adegboye Oyetola, adding that their appointment is a court duty to lift the institution to higher pedestal. According to him, it is an opportunity to explore emerging issues, address concern, review and clarify roles and responsibility, set goals and priorities, and develop cohesive council and an avenue for focused discussion and critical thinking on how best to deliver on their mandate. He emphasized the need for governing council and the management to address all the issues confronting the college with the tenacity of purpose. Some of the issues most attracted attention of the council.
Ebonyi State Governor David Umahi has defied his sack by High Court judgment, vowing that he remains the governor. He urged the people of the state to remain calm as he was sure of questioning the ruling at the appeal court. The governor, who described the Justice Ian Echo's judgment as a jungle justice, said he has forwarded a petition against the judgment to the Nigerian Judicial Council. He noted that the court lacks the powers to remove him as governor, as he is covered by immunity clause, which protects him from any form of litigation that is not pre-election and tribunal matter. Mr. Umahi also noted that there are 2 other similar cases of defection of a governor by an Ebonyi High Court and another in Zamfara, which ruled in favor of the governor. It is noted that the Constitution stipulates that the only way whereby a governor can vacate his seat is either by death, resignation, or impeachment by the House of Assembly. The governor also argued that the judge lacks the powers to declare the seats of the House of Assembly members vacant. This is the news across the country coming to you from Osun State Broadcasting Corporation. Ile Awuje Okibale Oshogbo, Voice of the West. Now, our mid-news message. Challenges are what makes life interesting, but overcoming them is what makes life meaningful. Be focused. Today on Entertainment News, focus is on one of the older theatre practitioners, playwright and musician in Nigeria, Shibat Ogunde, who is regarded as the founding father of the Nigerian theatre. How he contributed to the development of entertainment industry in Nigeria with his versatility and creativity. Join Musurayo Oladejo as he packages the entertainment news for your enjoyment.
The entertainment industry in Nigeria dates back to the 19th century. It experienced an outburst of talented people that were versatile and creative. They had contributed to the development of the theater industry from motion cinema, stage play, celluloid, which later metamorphosed into the current movie industry in Nigeria. The founding father of theatre, Albert Ogunde, alongside former theatre practitioners such as Ola Balogun, Moses Olaiya, Jabhadu, Shola Ogunshola, Ladi Ladipo, amongst others, were the ones who paddled the kind of theatre industry to where it is in Nigeria today. Focusing on Albert Ogunde, Mr. Adeyemi said, Baba Ogunde was a notable icon in Nigeria and still is.
Practitioners together throughout Nigeria, irrespective of ethnic group, and he was able to consult with the federal government, wherein he had a troop which is national in outlook. And
Ogunde was born in Ososa near Ijebu, Ogun State. He had his primary education in St. John's Schools, Ososa, and proceeded to St. Peter's Schools, Faraji, Lagos, then Wasemi African Schools. His first contact with performance art was as a member of Egun Alarinjo during his elementary school days. After completing his education, he worked as a teacher before joining the Nigerian Police Force. His theatre career began under the patronage of the church. In 1944, he co-produced his first opera with G.B. Kuyino, The Garden of Eden, commissioned by the Lagos-based Church of the Lord, founded by Isaiah Oshitelu, alongside members of his amateur drama group, the African Music Research Party, in 1945. Speaking with Mr. Abodere, he said, Albert Ogunde was the one who popularized stage drama through his Ogunde cultural troupe. He moved from places to perform for people. It was a delight to watch.
Popularized stage drama through his Ogunde cultural troupe. He moved from places to places to perform on stage for people, and it was a delight to watch.
He moved away from his religion-themed plays and started writing nationalistic and anti-colonial plays. In 1945, he produced Wars and a Crime, a political play infused with Yoruba dance and Asian folk songs. He wrote pro-labor plays Strike and Hunger, motivated by the event of a general strike by labor union led by Michael Imodu. In 1970s, otherwise known as celluloid years, Ogunde decided to follow the trend to start making Yoruba films. Speaking with Mr. Adeyemo, he said, Ogunde was one of the early Yoruba movie producers in Nigeria in celluloid form. He produced movies like Haye, Chayesemi, Arokunte and Ayomo, which was dedicated to his wife Adeshewa. His plays explored Yoruba mysticism, witchcraft, and traditional notions.
He introduced the Nigerian troupe with the aim of bringing all the theatre practitioners together throughout Nigeria, irrespective of ethnic group. He was one of the early Yoruba movie producers with three movies in a celluloid form.
Apart from being an actor, Ogunde was also a musician and released many albums during his career. The songs like his play demonstrating knowledge of Yoruba ethos, some of which include Ekun Oniwogbe, Yoruba Rono, Onimoto. He produced a soundtrack album for each of his plays. Ogunde married more than 10 wives and had many children. The Ogunde Theatre Troupe was largely a family-run business. The wives and children were involved in its productions. He established a film village at Ososa, his hometown, to serve as a film shooting studio for his films. He fell ill during shooting of the film Mr. Johnson and died on the 14th of April 1990 at age 73 at London's Cromwell Hospital following his brief illness. Although Albert Ogunde died till date, he is still regarded as father of theatre in Nigeria and his memories still linger on. He has successfully engraved his impact on the Nigerian movie industry due to his outstanding performance and creativity. Moturayo Oladejo for OSBC Entertainment News.
Another faction of the primary election of the People's Democratic Party was held today under a controlled atmosphere. The chairman of the primary election panel from the National Secretariat of the party and the Deputy Governor of Bayelsa State, Mr. Lawrence Erujapo, told newsmen that a candidate must emerge from the primary. Over now to Tunde Bolatito, who covered the event for OSBC News.
Delegates from all the local government areas of the state arrived at Osogbo City Stadium as early as 8 in the morning. The delegate who came with determination to elect a candidate of the party for the July 16 governorship election were in high spirit. Addressing journalists before the primary election, Deputy Governor of Bayelsa State and chairman of the panel for the election, Mr. Lawrence Erujapo, said the logistic and security arrangements have been perfected and that the election will go on as outlined by the National Secretariat of the party. Also speaking with OSBC, The State Police Commissioner, Mr. Wale Olokode, enthused that he is on ground to forestall any act capable of breaching peace at the venue of the election.
You can see that I've been going around to ensure that we have put in place a perfect arrangement, and I want to say that the arrangement on ground is satisfactory.
One of the governorship aspirants who spoke with OSBC News, Senator Ademola Adeleke, gave kudos to the party's national secretariat for a well-organized primary election. As at the time the OSBC crew left the venue of the primary election, 20 of the 30 local government areas in Osun State have voted. Voters in the PDP primary election today included the physically challenged and members of both the state and National Assembly of PDP extraction. Tunde Bola Tito reporting.
Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo has been eulogized for his unwavering commitment to the ideals of the Progressive family, chief among which is passion for service over the years. Governor of the state of Osun, Mr. Adegboyega Oyetola, said this in a statement by his Chief Press Secretary Ismail Umikidon to felicitate Vice President Yemi Osinbajo on the occasion of his 65th birthday. Governor further lauded Professor Osinbajo for being a reliable ally of President Muhammadu Buhari in steering the views of the country to enviable heights, while joining Nigerians across the world to wish the Vice President a happy birthday. The Osun Herdsman prayed the Almighty to continue to strengthen him in service to God and humanity at large. The Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, has assured the people, especially Delta and Anambra states, that the second Niger bridge will be completed before the end of 2022. Gambari stated this today when he led the Minister of Power and Housing, Babajide Fashola, his counterpart in the Labour and Employment Ministry, Dr. Chris Ngige, and other top government officials, including from Delta and Anambra states, to walk through the 1.6 kilometer from the Onitsha to Asaba end. While commending the contractor for the speedy pace of the work on the bridge, the Chief of Staff said that the quality of the project will last for decades. He said that the project cost was about 340 billion naira and will boost the economy when completed. The Nigerian Customs Service has finally announced the suspension of the implementation of the vehicle identification number violation policy recently introduced on imported used vehicles. Importers would be able to auto-generate tariffs on imported cars, a move which had led to weeks of demonstration and the shutdown of port activities by licensed customs agents. However, the communique says it has approached 1 month window of opportunity to enable the clearing agents to clear the backlog of vehicles held up in a port due to the strike action. The statement also instructs importers to ensure a uniform application of rebates for all vehicles using the correct values for their assessments. The VIN valuation protocol is still in operation as reviews and updates are being captured on the system to reflect these adjustments. The circular also directs the affected area controllers to monitor the transition period while ensuring manual assessments are in compliance with the extant laws of the land within the 1 month grace period, with effect from Tuesday 8th, that is today, to the 32nd of the month. Bauchi State government has pledged to remarry or to marry off at least 100 repentant commercial sex workers who indicated interest and presented themselves to the state's ISBA department. The permanent secretary in charge of the department, Alhaji Aminu Balarabe Isa, made this known today at the formal inauguration of vocational training for 575 repentant commercial sex workers in Bauchi. He said the government will sponsor the weddings of both Muslim and Christian women among them and provide them with dependable and reliable sources of livelihood. He commended them for taking the bold decision to renounce the practice, which may affect their lives negatively and place a permanent stigma on them. The permanent secretary explained that the repentant sex workers will be trained on vocational skills, which include hairdressing, knitting, entrepreneurship, tailoring, and cosmetology. 7 people, including a woman, has been confirmed killed and many others injured after suspected herdsmen attacked tore the Misa village in Dunga local government area of Taraba State. This reprisal attack by the herdsmen on the Tiv community is coming days after a herder was said to be brutally injured by some suspected chief militia while rearing his cattle on the axis of the village. Police Public Relations Officer in the state, Abdullahi Usman, who confirmed the incident, said that police, army, and professional hunters are currently after the assailants with a view to arresting and prosecuting them. The police spokesperson said a Fulani young herder was rescued from the bush where he was shot on his leg with multiple fractures and was brought before the divisional police officer there in Dunga and was questioned as to what led to the fracture, and he confessed to have been shot by some suspected chief militias. Now, talking sports, former coach of the Super Eagles, Samson Siasia, has faulted the 25-man list of players invited for the cracker against the Black Stars of Ghana, just as Ocean-born weightlifter Islamiyat Yusuf won gold medal at the International Open Championship in Mauritius. Adeyemi Abodere is standing by for details of these and many more on Sports Updates.
The Federation of International Football Federation, FIFA, have announced a special transfer window to allow foreign players from Ukraine and Russia to sign for a new club. The new transfer window will end on the 7th of next month and will allow players to join clubs until the end of June with no consequences, following the escalation of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which had led to an ongoing and distressing humanitarian crisis. The FIFA Council, in coordination with UEFA and various stakeholders, temporarily amended the regulations on the status of transfer of players in order to provide legal certainty and clarity on a number of matters. Meanwhile, Russia Premier League winner Victor Moses is among 109 foreign players currently registered with Russian Premier League sides that are said to be allowed to suspend their deals. Russian clubs are currently allowed a maximum of 8 foreign players within their squad, with Brazil the biggest contributor of foreign talent with 13 players. Reigning league champions Zenit St. Petersburg have a full complement of 8 foreign players with 5 Brazilians, 1 Colombian, 1 Kazakh player, and 1 Croatian in the form of former Liverpool defender Dejan Lovren. FIFA have already banned Russia from international football in response to the country's military operation in Ukraine. This means that the national team will currently not be allowed to take part in the playoffs for the World Cup later this month. Victor Moses is just one of the players set to be impacted by the new regulations, having joined Spartak Moscow permanently from Chelsea last summer. In the meantime, despite winning away from home, head coach of the country's under-17 female team, the Flamingos, Bankole Olowokere, has tasked the ladies not to give in to complacency going to the second leg. The Nigerian side on Sunday in Kinshasa pummeled host DR Congo 3-0 and have 1 foot in the next round of the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup qualifiers. Olowokere said they took time to study their opponent in the first half before coming out with force in the second half. He further said there are still some areas needed to work on going into the second leg of the qualifier. Nigeria will host the reverse fixture at the MKO Abiola National Stadium, Abuja, on the 19th of this month. Former Nigerian youth team coach Samson Siasia has faulted coach Austin Iguavon over the Super Eagles' 25-man list of invited players for the 2-legged games against the Black Stars of Ghana. The list included new names Akikumi Amao and Ademola Lukman, long-time injury absentee Ogenekaro Etebo, and Ugenyi Onazi, who has been absent from the squad for over 2 years. Siasa says he is not in support of the list, saying the coach should use players he knows. According to him, bringing in new players will make it difficult for them to understand themselves and play the pattern he wants them to play. The first leg between the perennial rivals hold on the 25th of this month in Cape Coast, while the reverse fixture will take place in Abuja 4 days later.
Join us tomorrow for more information on sports updates. To end the news across the country, Harrigan added major points. Governor State of Osun, Mr. Adegboyega Oyetola, has charged Nigerian women to assert their roles on critical stakeholders in the political space towards a strengthening democracy and further enrich good governance. Boyi State Governor David Umahi has defied his sack by High Court judgment, vowing that he remains governor. And the Bauchi State government has pledged to marry off at least 100 repentant commercial sex workers who indicated interest and presented themselves to the state's bar department. We also reported that 7 people, including a woman, has been confirmed dead and many others injured after suspected herdsmen attacked the Misa village in Donga local government area of Taraba State. That was the news across the country, edited by Temitokwe Olajuwola and delivered by Ulushayo Babatunde. Thanks for listening. Good evening.